Hey everyone, what's going on? Hope you're all doing well and ready for a proper breakdown because Obsidian just pushed a patch for the Outer Worlds 2, and I want to walk you through what actually changes, what you should pay attention to, and how this might affect your current playthroughs. Patch 1.0.50 landed, and it's more than just a handful of tiny tweaks. The team focused heavily on stability, progression blockers, and companion behavior, which are the kinds of things that can make or break the flow of an RPG. First off, let's talk stability, because that's where a lot of players have been burned on modern releases. Crashes, sudden load failures, weird physics moments that drop you through the map. And this update targets a lot of those hair-pulling edge cases. There are specific crash fixes for situations like interrupting NPC dialogue lines, grabbing certain grenades that could hard crash the game, and a mix of engine-level adjustments tied to certain interactions or GPU quirks. If you've ever lost progress to a random freeze, this patch should make your experience a lot smoother. You'll notice fewer sudden lockups, less stutter when new areas load in, and more consistent performance across long play sessions. The game just feels steadier now, like it's not fighting against itself as much. But it's not only about making the game stop crashing. This patch tackles dozens of quest and progression blockers, and that's where the big quality improvements come through. These are the moments that can absolutely ruin an RPG. You're following a quest chain, you hit an objective, and then nothing happens. Maybe the NPC won't talk to you, maybe the dialogue tree disappears, or maybe the quest marker just floats in the void without updating. Those are exactly the issues that got attention here. Many broken triggers, missing NPC spawns, and objective updates have been repaired. Players who had playthroughs halted by one of those bugs should now be able to load up their saves and finally continue. Not every issue is fixed retroactively. Some repairs only apply to new saves, but the list of progression fixes is big enough that the odds are good your specific bug is gone. Companions also received a lot of love this time, which is a relief because they're such an essential part of what gives this game its personality. The patch improves how companion quests and scripted events trigger, tightens up their battle logic, and resolves a lot of the weirdness where companions would randomly vanish during a cutscene or freeze during a mission. You'll notice that they stay closer to you, they react properly in dialogue transitions, and they don't get stuck in endless loops of repeating the same idle line. Combat with companions feels cleaner too. They actually fire when they're supposed to, take cover more intelligently, and respond better to your tactical commands. These adjustments make your team feel like part of the story instead of unpredictable background noise. On top of those big ticket fixes, there's a whole bunch of subtle quality of life improvements that you might not notice immediately, but that make a huge difference over time. Beacons and item placements were adjusted, a few broken environmental triggers were corrected, and some strange camera and cinematic bugs were cleaned up. The developers also patched in clearer feedback in certain menus and objectives. For instance, you'll now get proper notifications when objectives fail or complete under certain conditions that previously gave you no warning. They even fixed those small, immersion-breaking details like NPCs teleporting into cutscenes late or overlapping in the wrong position. It's the kind of polish pass that smooths the edges of the experience in ways that don't stand out until you replay old missions and realize how much cleaner they feel. One thing players should definitely be aware of: not all of these fixes will apply retroactively. Some only affect new saves or new quest triggers because of how the game's scripting works. If your save was already stuck in a broken quest loop before the patch, it might not automatically repair itself. The best approach is to load an earlier save, or if that fails, start a new run after verifying the patch has downloaded. It's frustrating, but that's just the reality of how RPG scripting is wired. Sometimes the code that governs quest progression can't rewrite old save data cleanly. So if you're one of the unlucky few sitting on a bugged quest, it's worth testing old saves before starting fresh, just in case the fix caught your particular bug. There were also some platform-specific improvements tucked into this patch. For PC players, save folder issues and autosave creation problems were resolved, which should help avoid those confusing moments where the game refused to save because of missing directory paths. If you play across different drives or use modded configurations, that's going to be a relief. Performance across long sessions was another target. Better memory handling and fewer stutters when loading into dense areas should make exploration smoother, especially for players who like to loot everything in sight and stack up on inventory items. It's not a dramatic performance overhaul, but the general feel of the game world is just more stable. Then there's the subtle balance tuning that players are starting to notice. Some weapon and perk behaviors have been quietly adjusted. It's nothing game-breaking, but you might feel a difference in melee responsiveness, a few perks like Vital Striker acting slightly differently, and some tuning that makes certain combat encounters flow more naturally. These aren't massive rebalances, just refinements to make combat a little less janky and to close off exploits that were making fights too easy in unintended ways. If you're the kind of player who notices how every percent of bonus damage matters, you'll probably pick up on those little shifts. If you use mods or any custom tweaks, give this patch a bit of breathing room before jumping back in. Because the developers touched a lot of quest scripting and companion behavior, there's a chance that older mods relying on pre-patch data could break or act unpredictably. It's worth checking the mod forums and waiting for confirmation that everything plays nicely with the new build. For players running the game vanilla though, you're good to go immediately after updating. For creators and streamers, it's a perfect time to showcase how the game has evolved. If you've got footage from pre-patch gameplay, showing side-by-side clips of how broken certain quests were versus how smooth they are now, could be a great way to illustrate the improvements. Even something as simple as recording a short mission that used to be bugged and showing that it now runs flawlessly can really highlight how much better the experience feels. It's also a good chance to explore companions' reactivity again because their dialogue and mission flow are working properly now. Another nice touch is how Obsidian communicated this update. They released clear notes, broke down the key areas of focus, and acknowledged that not every single issue could be fixed at once. It's refreshing to see that level of transparency, admitting that some fixes require new saves, for instance, helps players set expectations instead of wondering why an old bug persists. That openness goes a long way in keeping the community engaged and patient for future patches. And since the developers are still active in their official discussion threads, you can expect follow-up patches that continue smoothing out any leftover rough edges. If you stepped away from the Outer Worlds 2 because of frustrating bugs or constant crashes, now's a great time to revisit it. The most notorious blockers that halted story progress are largely resolved, companion behavior is finally reliable, and stability overall feels far better. You can play long stretches without the creeping anxiety that the next door you open might freeze the game. Exploration feels safer, cutscenes run more smoothly, and missions actually complete when they're supposed to. That combination makes the world feel alive again instead of glitchy and unpredictable. For new players jumping in for the first time, this is the best version of the game yet. You're getting a far more stable and polished experience than the early adopters had, and the little improvements in animations, AI logic, and quest flow add up to a much more enjoyable adventure. You'll still find occasional quirks, no RPG this big is completely free of them, but the overall flow from quest to quest feels cohesive now. You can just focus on the dialogue, the choices, and the story without worrying about technical distractions breaking immersion. So if you're updating your game this week, give it a few extra minutes to install, then run a test mission and see the improvements firsthand. You'll probably notice right away that transitions between zones feel smoother, companions keep up without vanishing, and crashes are far less frequent. It's not some flashy overhaul patch meant to change the meta or add new content, but it's the kind of maintenance update that every good RPG needs after launch. The one that makes the difference between fun but buggy and smooth and immersive. Overall, The Outer Worlds 2 feels much healthier after this update. It's the version that finally delivers on the promise of how the game should have run at release. The best part is that all these fixes don't just patch problems, they make the whole experience feel more confident and complete. The story hits harder when it's not broken by technical hiccups, combat feels sharper when companions actually pull their weight, and exploration feels rewarding when objectives trigger correctly. This patch doesn't change what The Outer Worlds 2 is, but it finally lets it shine the way it was meant to.